The real reason why protective styles aren't growing your hair is going to be listed. In the next following 10 tips, I will give you tips on how to actually grow your hair in protective styles the correct way. And this is why protective styles are probably not working for you. My name is Angelica. I post videos twice a week on Wednesdays and Sundays. And on Friday, I post a little bonus video. So if you guys would like anything specific, like how I whiten my teeth, a little head wrap tutorial, makeup, whatever, you can always let me know in the comment section below and I'll do it. Okay, so the first tip is actually very easy, plain and simple, and that is that your protective style is actually not a protective style. So many styles that people will say it's a protective style just because it resembles a protective style, but it's actually not. And I'm going to list a few of them. 1. Weaves where you leave your hair out. 2. Micro braids, micro twists, Marley twists, Senegalese twists, faux locks. Now I might have left out a few, but if they resemble any of the ones that I just mentioned, then that is not a protective style. Just because your hair is tucked away and you have no access to it does not make it a protective style. Micro braids and micro twists are prone to pulling your hair out and causing excessive damage from the root all the way out. So from the root, it causes damage during the braiding process, during the unbraiding process, and while you're wearing them. And then when you're unbraiding, breakage can happen as you're undoing those, whether it is the twists, the braids, even micro, I don't know whether you could call them micro cornrows, but those tiny cornrows that people do, that also causes breakage because it's too much manipulation on a tiny piece of hair. And also during the unbraiding process, it's almost impossible to not break your hair. So these styles that are on the screen or that I have listed so far, they are not protective styles. Now, I'm not saying style your hair only to protect your hair and you can't have fun with your hairstyles. All I'm saying is that know that these hairstyles can have damaging effects on your hair. If you leave hair out and you do a weave, one, the weave may be too tight. Moving forward, if you leave certain bits of hair out, that hair is going to be rubbing against the weave. It's going to be, you're going to have to manipulate that hair that you have left out to match the texture of the weave. No matter what texture it is, it's obviously not going to be exactly the same texture that you have. So you have to manipulate your hair, whether it is with heat or whether it is with any other product. You will have to manipulate your hair somehow to kind of match the texture, and it will cause damage. And some of the other things, it may just be that the hair is so heavy, it's so much like Marley twists. With faux locks, the braid inside might be fine, but when they wrap that braiding hair around, it's going to be damaging your hair from the roots, and also as you're undoing it, you might cause some breakage. So these are not protective styles. They are fashion styles. They look good. If you want to do them, you can go ahead, but if it is for the purpose of growing your hair, they are not protective styles. Let's get into the second one. So the second one is it only applies to you if you use additional braiding hair or yarn or anything like that. And this is that you might be allergic to the braiding hair that you're using, whether it's used for twists, whether it's for braids, for cornrows, whatever that additional hair is. If you're allergic to it, you're usually not allergic to the plastic, you're allergic to the chemical that they put on it to preserve it and to make it like have a little bit of extra shine. And the way to combat this is to soak the hair before you braid your hair. Soak it in vinegar or in regular vinegar or apple cider vinegar. I personally only use regular vinegar. It's not that regular vinegar is better than apple cider vinegar. I actually think apple cider vinegar might be slightly better than regular vinegar, but it is so expensive and there's no way I'm going to spend that much money on apple cider vinegar just to soak the wigs when I can get the same benefits from using regular vinegar. So I use regular white vinegar, and basically you just need a dish or a bucket. Fill it up with water and put about a cup of vinegar into that, and it should be able to do the job. I put it in very warm water, not hot water, because most hair, especially Kanekalon hair, as soon as you dip it in hot water, that is meant to kind of seal the braid in, so it changes the texture and it will make it difficult for you to braid. So very warm water that you're able to touch but not keep your hand in for a very long time, but you should be able to touch it without burning. Soak the hair in there, put the cup of vinegar, and usually you see like a white film rise to the top of the water, and usually I leave it in for 30 to 40 minutes or until the water completely cools. Your hair will not tangle, especially if you twist it or braid it before you put it in. Now most of the hair, especially like the one I use, it's usually the Expression brand. it already comes in a big braid, so you just put it in the water like that, and then you hang it up and let it completely dry before you undo the braid and start using it. It'll be exactly the same as it was dry before you dipped it in, then you take it after. It's not going to tangle, but if you just leave the hair like out without twisting or braiding it, and you're kind of moving it around in the water, there is a chance that it could tangle. So make sure you braid it or twist it up before you dip it in the apple cider vinegar. That chemical, when it's put in your hair, will make your hair itch. Your scalp is going to itch. You might have red patches, and because of all that itchiness and moving around with your hair, you can rip out your hair from the roots, and you can also just cause breakage. Even if your hair is not ripping out, it can be breaking, and you might not notice until it's the time to take your braids out, and then you have excessive shedding, but the shedding is going to be mixed with breakage, and you have extremely damaged hair. So even if you do the style correctly but you're allergic to the hair, it might cause this. So whether you're allergic or not, I would suggest you still dip the hair just to be safe. If you are experiencing any of the allergic reactions I mentioned so far and the braids are already in your head, I do have a video. It's pretty old, but I'll try and link it in the eye right here or at the end of the video. I do have a video on how to help that, and this is to get the same very warm water mixed with vinegar in a spray bottle and just spray it all over your hair, and then wash it off with a shampoo. That should help. It won't be as effective as dipping the hair before, but if you're already here now, you're already here, there's nothing you can do. But if you have severe damage and severe itchiness, not even damage, severe itchiness and red patches, and you feel like you can't handle it, it is not worth it. Just take the braids out. I don't care if it costs you $500. You can decide, is your hair worth $500? Or is it worth more than that? Because if it's not, take the braids out right now. This is something that's very overlooked as well, because you might think, well, my hair is in a protective style. It is doing great. I'm not going to have to do anything to my hair for the next maybe 2 to 6 weeks. If you don't take care of your hair before you put it in the protective style, that is the first step in the wrong direction. You have to make sure that you take care of your hair very, very well right before you put it in the protective style. And by this, I mean you should deep condition, probably do a protein treatment, heavily moisturize your hair, because it doesn't matter if your hair is weighed down as long as it is not over moisturized. If your hair is weighed down, that's totally fine because it'll be in braids. There'll be no issue with that. But if you do not take care of your hair and you're braiding dry hair that is already brittle and prone to breakage, the protective style is not going to help it. So if you're putting damaged hair just by saying, let me just put it away so I don't have to deal with it for a week, you'll experience even worse breakage afterwards. So please take care of your hair, thoroughly condition, thoroughly wash it, make sure that it's extremely clean. Use a cleansing shampoo before, because you obviously will not wash your hair as often as you do when it is out, when it is in a protective style. And on top of that, your scalp will be more exposed, especially if it's like box braids, twists, cornrows, anything like that. If your hair is exposed and your scalp is exposed, you could experience a little bit more dryness than usual and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that your scalp is thoroughly washed and clean before you put in the protective style. And of course, never forget to deep condition. Step is the next logical step from the last point, and this is that you cause damage during the takedown process. Now, I think I have a video taking down box braids, but I also have multiple videos taking down cornrows. During the takedown, there are so many different ways you can damage your hair. One is using a rat tail comb and violently taking down whatever kinds of protective styles you have. That can cause breakage during the takedown process. Second is taking down extremely dry hair. Now, if you're scared that your hair might be too wet or anything like that, you can moisturize it very well the night before so that when you wake up in the morning, your hair is still nice and moisturized and soft. The other thing is over moisturizing your hair during the takedown process. And this is maybe spraying a lot of water and dousing your hair in oil before you even take the hair down, so that you think it's helping because it's adding slip to your hair, but it's actually going to cause like a moisture overload, and your hair is going to be breaking as you're taking it down. So you want a very nice balance. Also, some people are just so violent with taking the hair down. Even if they go by all the steps, they use their fingers, they moisturize their hair lightly, you might still be like pulling hairs apart like that as you're taking it down. That is still causing breakage. And then after you take it down, if you do not moisturize, you don't detangle, you don't deep condition and do a protein treatment. Even if you don't do a protein treatment, some deep conditioners are perfectly balanced between protein and moisture. If you don't at least wash and deep condition after you take your hair out, It might feel fine on the day, but moving forward in the next couple of days, you might have excessive dryness, which can lead to very bad breakage and maybe even very bad shedding. So you want to make sure you take care of your hair before you braid it, and then also right after you take out the protective style. And this leads me to the sixth tip, which is talking about doing things right. Now, you might actually be doing all the correct protective styles, not the ones I listed earlier on. You might be doing large box braids with a great amount of hair that matches your own hair. You might be doing large cornrows with the ones I have without even using any additional hair. You might be doing 6 to 10 large twists or box braids, and you're like, yes, I have done the perfect thing. And you have. But have you? If you braid the hair too tight or you're violent while doing the correct protective style, you can still cause excessive breakage and damage because you'll be doing it as you're doing the braid, so you might not even see the damage, whether it is cornrows, twists, or whatever. But when you take your hair down, you start to see, oh my God, I did everything right. I washed my hair in the braids. I conditioned it. I did everything I was supposed to do, and it's still damaged. It might be during the installation or takedown process that you did something wrong. Even if it was correct, you still installed the correct hairstyle the wrong way. If you get any tiny little bumps on your scalp or redness anywhere else in your scalp while you're braiding, you probably did it too tight, and the best thing you can do is to take it down immediately before you cause any further damage. The seventh thing, there's a yellow bird right outside my window. The seventh thing that can really affect your protective styles and can lead to your protective styles not growing your hair is straightening or blow drying your hair before you put it in a protective style. And I do not understand this. I see lots of pictures and videos where people will put posts like, if you're coming to do a weave or if you're coming to braid your hair, make sure that it is already blow dried. Make sure that the ends are straightened and flat ironed. And if you don't go with that, then they will blow dry, maybe trim and flat iron your hair before putting it in braids. That makes no sense. There is no need to blow dry or flat iron. You can manually stretch it. You can do the banding method. You can do your hair in twists, braids. You can do whatever you want to try and stretch the hair before you get into a style that needs maybe more neatness. But if you blow dry or flat iron your hair before, it is not protecting your hair. Now, if you're doing this purely for the sake of a style and you want it to look super sleek and neat, and you do not care about necessarily growing your hair or causing any damage or breakage, go ahead and do that because it will probably look nicer. But if you're doing it for the purpose of growing your hair as a protective style, you do not need to blow dry or flat iron your hair before you put it in any other kind of style. The eighth thing is something that is very easy for anyone to do and can cause your hair not growing in a protective style. And if you are very prone to doing this, I would suggest maybe you just don't do protective styles. And this is, as soon as your hair is in a protective style, you forget about your hair. Whether it is braids, whether you put on a wig, whether you put on a weave, whatever protective style you decide to go on to, if you do that style and then you just forget about your hair, it's over. It's not a protective style anymore. If you don't wash your hair. Now, washing your hair, I know it is difficult. Sometimes it's easy to forget. If you forget to wash your hair in a protective style, at least constantly moisturize your hair, seal in the moisture with an oil, put oil on your scalp, do scalp massages, and make sure you pay attention to your hair. If you skip all this, that will be, depending on how long you keep your hair in, maybe a month of extremely dry hair. No water, no moisturizer, no oils. Probably now your hair is itching, it is dry and damaged as your hair is moving around. Because your hair is so dry and brittle, it's going to be breaking. This is the thing you do not want to do. Set a reminder, if you will. Make yourself a calendar. Set a reminder every 2 days to say at this specific time, moisturize your hair or do a scalp massage, whatever your schedule is. You can make it around your own personal routine. That is fine. But if you forget about your hair once it goes into a protective style, it's not going to be a protective style anymore. Even if you do everything else right, you will still experience damage. The ninth thing is that you leave your protective style in for too long. Now, there are some people who do very well and they are able to take care of their hair very well in a protective style, especially people with relaxed hair, because if your hair is already straight, there's a chance that it's not going to tangle much more when it's braided. So the only hair that you're going to see is your new growth, which will be natural hair. And it might be a little bit easier to maintain that. Or you might have struggles with your demarcation line when you take down the hair, and you will have breakage right at the demarcation line. So if you are experienced and you have never experienced breaking by keeping a style in too long, and by too long I mean anywhere from Around 8 weeks to 3 months. Anything longer than that should just not even exist. But if you go anywhere up to 3 months, that might be too much. It might cause a lot of tangling, a lot of shedding, and it takes a lot of work to take down your hair. So if you're not willing to take the time and be extremely slow and gentle with your hair during the detangling process when you take it down, as well as taking care of your hair in the protective style the entire time you have it, I would suggest you do between 4 to 6 weeks. That is the sweet spot, because leaving your protective style in for too little as well can also be detrimental, because you might be adding too much manipulation for nothing. But if you leave it in between 4 and 6 weeks, that is a great time. But if you leave it for too long, it might just be a disaster. Your hair might be tangled, you might experience mold, you might experience excessive buildup if you don't know how to rinse it out properly. So just don't leave it in for too long unless you are 100% experienced and have never experienced any kind of damage. You can go ahead and at least do not go past 3 months, which I still don't recommend, but don't go past 3 months. The 10th thing is the number one thing that I see in hair salons all the time, and this is, might have done everything else I have listed correctly, but you do not let your hair breathe. And by this I mean, you put your hair in cornrows and then you're like, okay, I've had these cornrows in for about 2 months, or I've had them in for 6 weeks. I think that's long enough. I've been washing my hair, I've been moisturizing. Let me take it down. You take your hair down, you do the perfect detangling, you do everything, but then on the same day or on the next day, you put your hair back into the style. Your hair might start experiencing too much stress. I see people do this with wigs and weaves all the time. They'll go to a hair salon, even if they're relaxed, they'll go to a hair salon, take out their hair, detangle, comb it, put it in a relaxer, wash again, condition, go under the dryer, come out, rebraid their hair, put the wig back or put the weave back in or put box braids in. That is detrimental to your hair. You are causing too much stress on your hair, and you want to make sure you let your hair breathe at least for 1 to 2 weeks. So usually between styles, like when I do cornrows, I won't go straight back into cornrows. I'll have a 2 week period where maybe 1 week I'll do like a simple wash and go, not even with a lot of products. I'll just leave my hair out and be moisturizing it constantly. And then maybe after another week, I'll go ahead and maybe just do 4 or 6 big braids and leave that in for another week. Then I'll heavily wash, deep condition, protein treatment. Then I'll go back into a more long-term protective style. Now that is the most ideal. The minimum I would say is a week. Let your hair breathe for at least a week to just sit and not have anything pulling at the scalp. Just let it be however it is. That is the best thing I can do. If you do not let your hair breathe, trust me, eventually, if you're not seeing any side effects now, you will see more side effects. Now, if you want more tips on growing hair just in general, let me know in the comment section below. And if you want the unbraiding video again, just comment unbraid in the comment section below, and I'll know that you definitely want another video on that. Hit my face right there if you didn't subscribe in the beginning. Hit my face here to subscribe to my other channel and watch the 2 videos on the side of the screen right here. If you'd like to see any of my older videos, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!